this presentation. So thanks for the introduction. I really appreciate it. Welcome to the Facebook Live audience. And I'm excited to be here. This title of this speech is Making 2018 Your Year of Destiny. I will tell you, I've not done this talk for anybody else. This is done, I'm putting it specifically together for y'all. But it is intended really to focus on 2018, but we're going to do that by starting with 2017. Now, some of you, if I'd have said we're going to do 2017 year in review, you may not have shown up. Okay? That's one of those things. I want to tell you a little bit of kind of a story. As I was contemplating this talk, I reflected back on my 8th grade experience. Back in 8th grade, I had a biology teacher who was the science that I had in 8th grade. And his name was Mr. Gregory. And he encouraged me at that point in time to do a science project for the school science fair. And so I said, okay. And he said, what do you want to do it on? And I said, I don't know. And so we were doing some things about biology and for some reason, I don't think anything happens by chance, but for some reason at that point in time, I decided that I was interested in learning, in why people do what they do. And so I had, did anybody have a pet when they were growing up? We had a family dog. And so, have you ever heard of Pavlov's dog? Okay. So I had a family dog, but one of the things I wanted, that was the family pet. Anybody ever, when they were a kid, have a family pet and want to have your own pet?
Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted my own pet. You know, some kids get fish, some people get, and the cool thing when I was a kid was hamsters. Anybody have a hamster? Guinea pig?
Yeah.
See, the reason I wanted a hamster, but here's the thing about my past, is I was come from a very lower middle class area, and I basically at that point in my life when I was in 8th grade I had to buy my own jeans, so I didn't have a lot of money. And hamsters were actually relatively expensive compared to my budget. So guess what I got? White mice. You could get, like several white mice, and they were kind of, for the price of a hamster. And if they died, you just got another one, and it was not a big deal. So I came up with this idea in reading our textbook, and I said I was looking for ideas, and there was this thing about learning, how people learn, either operant learning conceptually how to do something, versus conditioned learning things over and over and over again. And I came up with a science project that said I was going to get my dad to build me a maze, because I didn't say that, but I'm not handy at all. So I had my dad build a maze that I was going to put these mice through. And my thesis, or my theory, was that if a mouse learned to run a maze, as you would imagine, if they run a specific maze, over time they get better and better and better, right? That makes all kinds of sense. But what I had my dad do was build this maze that had kind of a grid, and you could take, and had little doors cut in it, and you could actually take the pieces out and rearrange them. So you could change the maze. And so I had one group, I actually had 2 mice, that I taught, and actually all 4 of them I taught to run this maze, except that one of them I changed the maze every few days, or the one group. The other group I had them run the same maze every day. And guess what happened? The ones that run the maze every day the same way, what happened to them? Did their time get better or worse? Actually, it got better. The time they run the same maze day and day. What happened though is the ones that we run the maze where we changed it every other day, or I don't know, I think it was every other day, to a different configuration, they didn't basically advance as quickly. But they did advance. They just didn't advance as quickly. So I had them, and I did this collected the data and did this over a period of month, I think it was like a month or 2 months. It wasn't a long time. Probably wasn't, I didn't think, in retrospect, it probably wasn't as scientifically significant as I thought it was. But actually, we did it. So we did it, and they ran it, and they went over and over, and guess what happened? After running it for like 4 weeks, I decided, and here, the ones that run the same day were at this level. The ones that were running a different one were close, but hadn't gotten to the same speed with which the ones that were running the maze every day. So I did this really cool thing. Then I said, I started the control group, or the group that were running the same maze, and I changed the maze for both groups. Guess what happened? The ones that were running the same maze every day, their time went from here to all the way to here. So what happened was, and then they started to recover, and over time, they never, believe it or not, never ever got to the same level. These guys were not impacted at all. They stayed at that level. These guys started getting up, but they never quite got to the cheese, if you will, as fast. So I did my science project. I won my school science fair with that project. Actually went to the Missouri Academy of Science, spoke in front of all these scientists, and that was my entree into speaking. Now, what does that have to do with making 2018 your year of destiny? One of the things that we talk about in the Vision Challenge, how many of you have taken the Vision Challenge? Okay. Some of you, and Christina, I'm glad you're here because I actually wanted to use you as an example. Is it okay if I use you as an example? Because there's various people that have taken it, and they've taken it to various levels. Now, I'm not going to be talking about the Vision Challenge, but if you've taken the Vision Challenge, you will have a leg up. Now, I'm going to pass out a handout. Now, I'm going to ask you with the handout, Lloyd, if you pass these out, is use it to make notes. Stick with me on the slides. If there's anything that comes out to you, and there will be as we go through it, slide by slide, there will be some things that you'll want to make notes on that'll prompt you. And what I'm really going to ask you to do is, once we get through with this, is take this, call it a worksheet. You can augment it with your own journal. You can augment it with your count, whatever it happens to be. But use this as a kind of a starting point. Today, when I'm going through this, if something occurs to you, don't totally lose where I'm talking to, because I want you to get what I'm doing here. But hopefully this will be on Facebook Live, and hopefully you'll be able to go back and watch it. I say hopefully because that doesn't always work, because the network quality isn't great here. So, but anyway, what I'd like for you to do is kind of walk through this with me to talk about that. So in the Vision Challenge, the real value of that is it gives you clarity, it gives you purpose, it gives you confidence, decisiveness, action. That's why we do it. The problem is, there's another thing about why we do it that I don't really talk about much. And that is, as we talk about the zombie effect. And again, I call it the zombie effect. Many of you know that I'm writing a book, Vision Warrior, Survive and Thrive in the Zombie Apocalypse. And the zombies are not unlike the mice that I talked about before. We become very conditioned. We get very much trapped on a daily, annual life basis in our day-to-day. Trapped in what I call our license to operate. Whether you've got a job, whether you think you're your own boss and you've got your own business, whether you're an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter. We all, to one degree or another, become infected or become trapped in our license to operate. We start doing things without what I call intention. Okay? When we went back to the mice, what I said when I was giving you the example of my science experiment was, and I learned some things after that. First of all, I learned just as a little aside, these are funny things in retrospect that I learned with my mice. One of the things I learned when I went to the Missouri Junior Academy of Science was something I hadn't even thought about, was mice leave fecal matter around a maze. They leave, my pest guy will tell you, they leave tracks, right? They leave things behind. And so part of what they were doing because they were living their life in this maze, is they, once the ones that were running the same path every day, they could smell the same things, go the same way. Not only could they see and had learned how to run that maze, but they learned how to run, follow the scents. So there were some things that kind of perverted, or that I probably, if I were doing it again, I would have sterilized the every day and had to do that to make it totally pure. And actually, in full transparency, I think I even fudged the data a little bit to make it look better than it was, just because I wanted it to be impactful. Now, I don't take my award away from the Junior Academy of Science. I'm sorry. It was in 8th grade. I'm not even sure where it is now. So my point is that without intention, without that conscious intention of having a goal or having a vision of where they were going, in this case, to get the cheese, because when we said, okay, you run this path. If I told you today to go from this point in the room to that point in the room in a straight line, if you started walking in a straight line, and I said, this is the way you've got to do it, walk a straight line. What happened? What would you do if I put a chair right in your path? You started a straight line, put a chair in your path. What would you do? You would have to stop, right? Because you couldn't follow my instruction. You couldn't say, my goal is to do this, by this, because I just put a thing. The purpose and the reason for vision is you're moving towards something, and then what do we do as humans? When we run into an obstacle, what do? We adapt. Absolutely, Lloyd. That's perfect. So what you do is you adapt. If you have, there's a saying, I've heard it preached a number of times, is, in sermons or whatever, if you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans. Because the reality of it is, our short-term plans may or may not be something we need to do. So if we're going to lead ourselves first, because you can't give something you don't have. So if you want to give leadership to other people, if you're not leading yourself, if you're not doing these things yourself, I don't care if you're selling people to buy a product. I don't care if you're trying to lead an organization of people. I don't care if you're leading a networking group or TV show. I don't care what it is. If you are not leading yourself first, you can't give something you don't have. You don't have the ability to follow. You can't expect. So part of this is that you need to move forward with a vision. So what happens? We start a vision. You start at the beginning of a year. We'll start 2018. Anybody ever make resolutions? Anybody? I do. Anybody ever break resolutions? Everybody should raise their hand. Okay. The point is, it's good to have short-term goals, but if you don't know the context or the vision of anything where possible, the future you're moving towards, what happens to us? We get sidetracked. What happens when we get sidetracked?
We forget about the goals.
Why? Because we have a limbic brain. We have a reptilian brain that is all about protecting us. And so what do? When we say we have something and we get off course, we tend to set that aside because it's upsetting. We beat ourselves up. Our mind says, okay, we don't want to think about that. So we go through, and guess what we come back to? That zombie virus. We come back to that being trapped in data. Get up, go to work, see the same people, say the same things, order the same Starbucks, do this, go to lunch, plan my vacation at the same time of the year, get my kids out of bed, whatever your routine is, you fall back to that. And then what happens is when you get to the end of the year and somebody says, how was your year? You say, pretty good, right? But what are you really thinking? You're really thinking, I didn't get much done. I'm not even sure where I started. Why am I here? If you don't have to be honest with me. You're here in the studio audience or online. And if you're online, you can do it anonymously, whatever. But how many of you kind of getting to the end of this year and think, I didn't quite get everything I wanted to do this year? How many of you didn't even know what you were trying to get this year? I mean, that's honest. I mean, my hands up. I mean, I can tell you for certain that there are things that I hope to accomplish this year. And in most cases, I didn't even write those down, or I maybe said them once and then quickly got off track, quickly forgot my thing, and so I set them aside. This exercise is really intended to do something very important. What we're going to do is I want you to ultimately end up with a list of 60 to 100 wins for 2017 in your life. Nobody's going to ask you to do this. You'll never do this unless you make a point to do this. Does this sound crazy? I mean, nobody says, tell me all the wins. You don't do that to yourself. Why? Because we tend to be real negative with ourselves. We tend to be somewhat discouraging. We're pretty aware of where we failed a lot of times. But where we win, what we succeed, the things that progress we have made, moving towards a direction, whether you've taken the vision challenge and you have some clarity of what that is, or you haven't taken the vision challenge and you think you might know, or you just said, okay, I think I know and I'm just going to keep moving forward. It doesn't matter. The point is, you're not where you want to be. I don't think anybody here has arrived. Has anybody here arrived? I haven't arrived. I have not. When I'm in a casket, that's when I have arrived at the end of this life and the point where I am. Until then, I'm learning, I'm striving, I'm trying to do what I can do, meet as many people as I can, have as much impact as I want. All those things. That's what I'm about. So the point is, it's easy for me, because I know me best. It's easy for you to know you best, to gloss over that. The things where you have, and say, okay, I got to fix this for next year. I got to do better here. One of the things for those who were in my first BGN talk of the year, what did I say? Anybody remember? I know, Lloyd, don't answer because I mentioned this to you earlier before we started. Was there anything weird that I said that I was going to do health-wise? I'll give you a tip.
Your six-pack.
That's exactly right. I was going to recover my six-pack. Now, my kids jokingly say it was never a six-pack because you had it when you were in high school, and it was really a four-pack because I was too skinny. So, but now I got plenty of flesh and meat to work with, so I was going to get that six-pack back. Now, did I have a real good plan as to how to do that or anything? I just knew I needed diet, exercise, lifestyle. I need to do some things, right? Well, my report out to you here towards the end of 2017 is I am, in total, I'm 35 pounds down from that point when I said that. I have lost 6 inches on my waist. I've gained 5 pounds or 6 pounds of muscle, and my body age decreased 1 year. In other words, your metabolic age versus your chronological age in that time frame. But I don't have my six-pack yet. Okay? But if I were looking at myself, that's a win. Right? I feel good about that. What we're going to do here is so after this meeting, and we're not going to walk through these tediously, every one. But what I'm going to encourage you to do is take kind of what I'm walking through here and go home, get your calendar, your journal, whatever you've got to help you remember, because maybe you didn't go through this every day with clear intention, but you know kind of what you did. And think about what you did. Don't discount. Don't say, it wasn't that a big deal. No, write it down. Anything, any win, small, large, whatever it happens to be, write it down. Then, be comprehensive. We're going to talk about 6 different areas. In the Vision Challenge, we break that unique vision down into 6 areas. If anything were possible, what kind of future would you imagine? And we break it into 6 areas. You could break it into 9, you could break it into 10, you could break it into 4. We break it down in the Vision Challenge into 6. Okay? And then if you did the Vision Challenge, think about some of the output from the Vision Challenge that you were starting to, and be intentional. And it might have been just, hey, you might have started, and then your intention shifted. So let's talk about that for a minute. So first of all, there are prompts here. As you're looking at, this is body, mind, and spirit. Or this is your body, self, and spiritual is what we call in the Vision Challenge. And this is, obviously I want you to have a vision for where you're going, but think about this year. Think about the things that you've accomplished. I mentioned health and fitness. Has your diet improved? Have you changed, maybe the metrics aren't there, but have you made some positive changes in your life? Did you go from working out never to working out once every so often? Or did you work out like me, now work out every day? Now, I didn't work out every day. I tried to work out every day, but I didn't work out every day. This year, I've missed some days, but I'm very much closer to every day than I was when I started. Maybe you attended an event. Maybe you did a 90-day challenge. Whatever it is, write those things down. Own those things. Be proud of those things. Do that. Go through anything you did to improve your self-image. If you read a motivational book, if you hung around with somebody who inspired you, if you started a new habit or whatever, all those things, write those down. Write down, if you started taking responsibility for yourself, for your own happiness, for your own wellness, for your own thing. Again, those are wins. Those all qualify. You follow me? These are all things that I want you to write down. Okay, and I'll tell you why in a minute. The other thing is connections to God. Your spiritual is important, or to a higher power. If you choose to be agnostic or whatever, that's your choice. My point is, we all have to be connected to something above ourselves. And so, I believe, if that is not important to you, then don't put out any wins there. But if somehow you've improved maybe your reading of the Bible or the Quran or whatever it is that you're doing, you've made some wins there. Don't discount those. Get them all down, because here's the thing. It'll become the foundation to give you the courage and the confidence in your own being to then move forward in 2018 and say, hey, I've done a lot. That's where we're going with this. So the other thing is, these are prompts for relationships. We often think about, and when I talk relationships, I'm not talking about networking yet. I'm talking about your close family, your friends, people that you've hung out with. Maybe it's old, it says old, new and old. Okay? Did I make some new relationships? Christine and some of you folks, Morgan, some of you are new this year. Those you're all wins to me. I've expanded my relationship with Rayanne. That's a win to me. Karen, I've had a relationship for a long time, but we've gotten better, and so I've improved that relationship. I connected with a college friend of mine that we sang together in coffee houses and bars, and he's down in College Station. We never got together. This year, Ron and I got together, and we've gotten together multiple times, and that's a win for me. I've improved the relationship. I feel good about that. And Facebook and other things are a way to do that, but I was intentional. I said I wanted to, rekindle and establish those things. And even if I didn't write it down at the beginning of the year, take credit for it. Those are wins that you had in your life right now. Write those down. Maybe you may, and this is an interesting one, maybe you got rid of somebody in your life. Mm-hmm. Maybe you had some toxic relationships. Maybe, and I don't mean just, I'm not talking about marriages and, whatever, maybe, but I'm just talking about maybe there was something in your world that was holding you back, dragging you down, somebody that's always negative, somebody that, drains the energy, everything adds energy to you or takes energy from you. And so you recognize that and you made that change. That's a win. You with me? Okay, so that's the close relationships. And that's sometimes the closest ones are the ones that are the most damaging. But maybe you brought somebody into your life closer that is really inspiring you. So that's that too. Now, looking at for your network. This is your professional. This is what we're doing here. This is the network outside the world. This is whether it's networking and social, networking, one-to-one, making some practices. How have you impacted your community? Are there things that you did this year that you hadn't done before as far as maybe community involvement? Maybe it's involvement here. I mean, Mary, for example, stepped up and she's going to lead our mixer activities and stuff. I mean, that's a win. That's important. I mean, I'm serious. Lloyd stepped up today and was the MC. He served the community. He did something he didn't have to do, and he invested. And I know that Rayanne and some and Karen and others have been very active in the Business Growth Network. And that's not. I mean, there's developmental things there, but it's also a service thing. You understand? So when you're involving networking, as we've talked about before, isn't what you get, it's what you give. And so when I say the wins in networking, it's what have you been able to contribute? I didn't just attend, first of all, you got to be there. But then, hey, I introduced this person to this person. I made a referral here, and this guy got some business. It could be anything. Those are all wins. Write them down. Capture as much as you can. He who captures the most here is going to win, because the reality of it is going to give you the most energy to move forward. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah. Maybe the standards, the qualities of the people, maybe you got out of some networking groups. This is the best one in Dallas, right here. But I can tell you that maybe and last year I haven't really disengaged. I've engaged in some and tried to serve in some and help some new ones. But there's some that I withdrew from. Just like your personal relationships, there's things in your network that you need to do. When you look at successes, here's the one where people get wrapped around the axle, because I didn't make as much money as I wanted. I didn't have as much sales as I wanted. My business didn't go where it went. And so all of a sudden that casts a pall over everything. Guess what? Did you get a new customer? Did you get rid of a lousy customer that was causing you all kinds of pain and trouble? Those are all wins. Did you do some things? Did you redefine your business? Did you achieve some business milestone? You're not as successful as this person. Don't compare. It's not to anybody else. This is internal to you. Okay? Are we still clear? This is. I'm really asking you to get into your own self, into your own head, to build this foundation of this year in review. Now, did you do better at delegating? I mean, I'm a control freak, honest to God. If you know me, you know that. Just 100%, right? Yeah, and my kids will tell you that. And so me giving something that I think is important to somebody else is a huge thing for me to do. If I ask somebody to do something, if I ask Lloyd to be the MC, if I ask somebody to, Mary to take over the mixers. I mean, she's already probably frustrated with me because I say, oh, that won't work. Oh, don't do that. But as I release that and give other people a chance, that's a good thing. That's improving my business, my operations. Other thing is, think about your physical environment. Did you get organized? One of the things I'm into is minimalization. I know Mary had her house redone. It looks great. We had a party there. It was awesome. Okay, I've done some things in my life. Those who know my journey, I've gone from a lot of space, a lot of stuff, and I'm on this journey to a very minimalistic, low overhead, total flexibility where I can do what I want to do, which is spend all the time I can with people I love. That's all I care about. What I have, what stuff is there, what I drive, as long as it's functional, as long as it's, I don't have to spend all my time fixing it or whatever, then that's what I'm going for. That may not be you, but I'm just saying, did you make some of those wins? Did you do some things? Did you improve your physical environment, whether it's your home, your office? Maybe you got rid of some possessions. Maybe you got something that in your space that made life easier for you. I don't know, but what are those? Declutter, organization. Maybe you've improved or changed your own wardrobe, your own physical appearance. Maybe you've gone to Cabby and you've got, I'm just saying, maybe that's something that you've done. Those are wins. With me? Is it? So the thing, so looking at what I call your natural and your virtual environment is, how much time are you spending outside? Is that something you want to do? Are you spending time when and where you want? Maybe you want to be on a beach and you're in Dallas. That's not a good place to be. But maybe you're working. Maybe you made some progress. Maybe there's something you put in place. Maybe you took more vacation. Maybe you were, I'm taking a cruise around Southern Europe in February, and I set out to do that a year ago, and finally, working with Lisa and doing some things, I laid the groundwork, and that's going to happen. So to me, that's a big thing in my environment. That's a big improvement. Maybe the information. This is a good one, by the way. Maybe you're getting inundated and your whole attitude is affected by all the political noise and nonsense and the media and the news and on Facebook and so. Did you disconnect from any of that? Did you unfriend somebody?
Oh, yes.
That's a win, guys. That could be a win. Did you? And again, I'm not suggesting tunnel vision. I'm very much into understanding everybody's worldview. Don't get me wrong for a second. But the noise and the drama and the lies and the other type of stuff that we get inundated with can be very damaging. So maybe you just made some progress along those ways. Maybe you're a news junkie and you turned off the morning news. Maybe you didn't pick up your phone the first thing when you got it. That's an addiction, by the way.
Oh, yes.
It is an addiction. So much addiction as alcohol has been proven because that triggers dopamine, and dopamine is the most addictive thing you can get. Guess what? The other thing that triggers dopamine is achievement of goals. So that's a good thing. But alcohol, drugs, sex, cell phones, smartphones, social media, those also trigger dopamine. So I won't get into the whole science of this, but I'm telling you that making positive wins in those areas will impact how strong you are. So the last one is, once you have that framework, and I know I went through that very quickly, honestly, I would encourage you not to stop until you've got 100 wins. Well, you've written down 100 things over the last year that you feel good about, that you feel that were wins in your life. Again, remember, there's not huge, there's not little. And then, let's start 2018 knowing whether you had intention or not. For 2017, you did 100 things. You had 100 wins in your life that you're proud of, that you were willing to write down on paper. You can look at and say, and then think about 2018 as my year of destiny. Is what if I start 2018 with that as my foundation and my backdrop, knowing that, look at each of these areas that I just went through and say, if anything were possible, this is what I would like that part of my life to look like. This is what I would like this part. Go through those 6 areas and then say, be modest, be safe. Don't scare yourself. Put some things in the next year that you want to do in those areas, not unlike maybe things you've already done. I'm still working on my 6-pack. It's not going away. 2018, I'm going to get there. I'll spare you showing unless you ask. No, but I'm going to get there. So it's still on my thing. I'm going to have more wins. I'm going to have more things to report. But that's not the only area. I'm going to do some things and on the things, and I'm going to do some new things. So go through that, lay that out. And then the last thing I'm going to say is, I've given you something that you don't even know about, and I was talking to Susan about this earlier, but we've got lined up for the Business Growth Network 30 speakers, an hour apiece, that are going to do a virtual summit. Jenna's already started recording them, and it's free. All you have to do is log in. It's going to January 1st through 5th. So you get to start the new year. I want you to start the new year with the best chance of making 2018 the year of destiny by getting started fast, but knowing the foundation of the things you can do, you inherently will be able to do if you're animated in the right direction, if you're not just letting whomever, because everybody has a design they want you to fulfill their vision for your life, right? You know that, right? All the advertisers, marketers, religious leaders, political leaders, business leaders, everybody wants us, you, me, everybody, to live the life that they want us to live. And they're going to manipulate you, if you let them, as zombies, whether it's loud noises or the smell of flesh. They're going to manipulate you, to animate you, to move towards their vision of your life. And guess what? You can win at that game. You've already proven it. You've got 100 wins under your belt from the last year. And now we're going to start off 2018 with a kickstart, and you probably have 30 hours, and you don't have to watch all 30 of them or whatever. We're going to make provisions. They're recorded. We're not starting January 1st. I'm probably recovering January 1st. But if you're recovering January 1st from December 31st, then get up when your head is clear. Did it do something?
It's low battery.
Yeah, you have low battery.
Oh, okay. As long as the battery's just low, once it's dead, it's okay. So anyway, that's it. I would encourage you. We're still working on the landing page, but you can still go there and sign up for businessgrowthnetwork.org/summit and get your free ticket, which basically will get you the notifications of when the videos are live and stuff. And that will give you, and you're going to hear from everybody from Anil Gupta. Scott Schilling has already done his recording. We've got people that you've heard in some of our BGN talks, as well as new people. Doug Grady's is doing a recording. I don't know if he was here. I'm doing a couple of talks, kind of bookending some things. There's going to be things on digital marketing, on lifestyle, every possible thing that you can think of. That I know that Susan's hopefully going to do a recording. So what she has to talk about. So there's still some. By the way, there's still some slots open for speakers because we're trying to get everybody's schedule. We've got about 60 people in the hopper, and we've got maybe 10 left of slots that people haven't locked in as speakers go. The interesting thing is there's a lot of interest in these kind of virtual summits that are going on, these digital summits. So I just want to make that an offer for you and give you guys an opportunity to kickstart. But whether you do that or do something else, do the 2017 in review for yourself. Anybody that wants to talk about that, I make to the Business Growth Network as well as these groups. If you'd like to sit down and you did this and you'd like to do it, you just like to have a one-on-one for an hour, I'll do that for you, for free at this juncture, because I want to see everybody. My whole passion for this group and for the other groups is to see everybody moving forward. I was very excited. Christine went through the Vision Challenge and said, you know what? I think I'm going to go in a completely different direction. I'm not going to share your direction, but that's a cool thing. Because the worst thing you can do is walk into something where you're looking to transform and get focused and say, I'm just going to use it to reinforce what I'm already doing. The intention there is to look at the world of possibilities and say, here's how I go forward. I'm still going in that direction. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. And thank you, Lloyd, for filling in.
Welcome. Still got 3 minutes for questions.
Yeah, any questions, any thoughts, any observations from the audience, the studio audience, or the virtual audience?
Well, I want to thank you for putting this together because this is very comprehensive. And I think a lot of times we tend to do plans for next year's and we just focus on the business per se and not us. And interestingly enough, our business really never outgrows us.
Right.
So if we don't improve, our business doesn't improve. So I appreciate you taking the time to include all aspects of us and how we translate that in our business. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So we could just go on to the website and sign up, and then
You'll get notification when the videos. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if, like I said, like you mentioned, if we're still recovering on the 1st,
Yeah.
on the 31st, we could still go on and get them later, right? We'll see
Yeah.
them later.
Yeah, they'll be recorded. I think the plan really is for them to be in the back office for perpetuity, or as long as they're valuable in the Business Growth Network Insiders is what the plan is. So they'll be available for some amount of time. And then, so you can watch, you don't have to watch every one. If you say, I'm not interested in that, or, you pick and choose. The intention is to cover the waterfront and make it available to as many people as possible. I want to start off 2018. This is one of my goals, was to start off 2018 with a big jump start. We've had 48 speakers over the last year or so doing these BGN talks, and I wanted to tap those folks, kind of front load the year. We'll still be doing these next year as well, but I wanted to, so since everybody's doing these summits, I said, can we do one of those too? And Jen and I talked, and so she's handling the tech. She's an amazing marketer, amazing with these tools and stuff. And so this is what we're going to do. Any other questions? Yes, Mary.
So it's businessgrowthnetwork.com?
.org.
.org.
Yeah, it's a not-for-profit. We don't. Those of you who know Business Growth Network, the subscription is $17 a month, and that's just to cover the systems costs and stuff. And we don't even. I mean, it doesn't even cover any of my time or Jenna's time or anything. It's just covering the systems that we use to deliver that. So it's not for profit, but not for loss. Does that make sense? So the 17 just is a cost recovery mechanism. So, but thanks for, that's it. businessgrowthnetwork.org/summit. So,
That's what I'm trying to say.
and feel free to share it. Again, this is not, this isn't not limited. You guys are obviously hearing it first and getting some initial heads up or whatever to it, but it's really, I just want to, I want to impact, I want to change the world one dream at a time. And that means not everybody's ready to take their dream and run with it, but those that do, that's who I want to work with. So I'm excited to find who those people will be in 2018 for myself. Any other questions, thoughts, observations? Well, thank you. People that know what their purpose is, people that know where they're going, and they're going there with or without you, and they know what value they bring, those people attract. They seek alignment. People seek alignment with them. They don't want to do what you do, but they want to be by you because